Me fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
How's it going?
I'm good, man. Monday, so just getting stuff done. You know how it goes.
For sure, bro. Man, I appreciate you, man, for joining me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
So one thing I looked over some of the things you've done, like the TED Talk and whatnot. I wanted to know what was the thing that made you want to be an entrepreneur? Because I'm an aspiring entrepreneur myself. What was that moment where you were like, I want to work for myself?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really began. So when I was about 15 years old, what happened was, so I grew up in a very traditional family. So one
Right.
morning, my dad, and I was a very rebellious teenager, always getting in trouble, cutting class, all that bad stuff, right? So there
Right.
came a day when I was about 15 where my dad just came in my room and he's like, look, you're a hooligan. You got to go get a job. I'm tired of paying for your video games and movies and all that stuff. So as any 15-year-old, I was super bummed about it. So I just went and, started applying for any job that a teenager could get after school, right? So just minimum wage stuff, cleaning floors, answering phones, door-to-door sales, telemarketing, tutoring, coaching. So I pretty
Right.
much went through the ringer for 2 years, right? So from 15 to 17, I probably
Right.
worked about, I think it was 12 jobs in total. And I kept quitting or getting fired. And eventually it was my senior year and I was getting ready to apply for college and all this stuff. And my big idea in life was, hey, I'm going to, go to college, get a business degree and work a corporate 9 to 5. And I thought
Right.
life would be great. But all of a sudden I became worried because I thought something was wrong with me. Like, why can't I work, 20 hours or 15 hours a week after school? So literally I just went on Google one day because I got really terrified. I thought I had some kind of disease and I wanted to find my symptoms out. So I
Right.
literally went into
Okay.
Google and I just typed in, why do I hate working jobs and keep getting fired? What's wrong with me? And the
Mm.
first thing I remember seeing was this video from Richard Branson where he used the word unemployable. And he used that as a comparison as if you feel unemployable or you seem to be unemployable, then you
Right.
need to check out entrepreneurship. And this was the first time I'd ever heard the word or anything. So I went in the dictionary, looked up the word, and from there I was like, man, I think this is what I need to do. And so I
Mm.
just kind of jumped in full force at 17.
Okay, so was there a particular route that you wanted to take? Because you wanted to, at that point, you had already realized you wanted to be in it for yourself, essentially, right? Was there a particular, you there?
Yeah, can you repeat that last part? It just kind of lagged out for a little bit.
Okay. So what I was saying is at that point, you had realized you wanted to be in it for yourself at that point. Was there a particular field you were looking for already, or was that just
Um,
discovery along the way?
Yeah, so the only thing, so I knew two things. So growing up, my whole life, I was very good with computers. So I knew
Right.
computers was, this was like 2010. So, still the internet and all that stuff was really booming. So I knew
Yeah.
I had kind of analyzed that. So I knew I want to do something with computers. And actually one of the jobs that I worked was for a web design company where I was just answering phones and,
Mm.
sending out emails and stuff for them. And I quickly started figuring out like, man, these guys would charge a crap ton of money for like making websites and stuff.
Right.
So I was like, man, I want to start my own company as like a social media, multimedia type agency where I offer the same services that I'd kind of seen these guys offering. And, I was working there. So it's kind of picking up on the lingo and kind of
Right.
understanding stuff. So that's really how I figured out what I wanted to do with my first business. And then as I started learning the market, I started expanding my services and really digging deeper when it came to finding more strategic ways to be better than my competitors.
Okay. So with the income incubator that you have currently, that's where I found you initially. At what point did you say I could be a teacher to other people? I can be a mentor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's crazy because I've been doing this for 9 years now. And over the period of these 9 years, I would always get emails, text messages, just people reaching out to me like, hey, can you teach me? Hey, I came across your article or I saw you're doing
Right.
this. It's super cool. Can you teach me? And I've always loved, giving back and teaching other people because I feel like when I videos that allowed me to successfully,
Could
become an
you,
entrepreneur.
could you repeat that last part? You broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think it's a little lag. So pretty much what I was saying was, so when I first got started as an entrepreneur, I learned everything from other people that, created content, videos, and material and kind
Right.
of gave back their teachings. So it was something that was always closely connected to me and I was passionate about. But the biggest thing
Mhm.
for me was I had so many people reaching out and I just felt helpless trying to help these people with like one email or one
Right.
message or even just like an audio recording for 5 minutes. So I started figuring out this common theme where people wanted to learn how to start an online business from me.
Mhm.
And that's when I essentially just jumped in and said, you know what, let me make a course or an academy out of it. and let me just put all this material in one place that people can come to. And so that's where it really was born.
So when you're teaching these what age group? Is it all ages or?
Yeah, it's pretty much open to all ages.
Okay. So when you're teaching people who are aspiring entrepreneurs, do you feel like that there's a lot of fear that they have, just fear of failing, that makes them stop, maybe not even initially want to try it first? Because it's a dangerous business for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a ton of fear of definitely failing and just a lot of self-doubt, right? So a lot of people that just doubt themselves in their own mind, that really limits them from starting out as an entrepreneur. And I really love to use myself as an example, because for whatever reason, when I started out, I didn't have that fear or that doubt. I literally just took action, right? I knew nothing about entrepreneurship. And one day I was like, man, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's it. And I'm just going to do it. And I like to compare it to jumping out of an airplane without a parachute and literally finding or building a parachute on the way down. And so, and I like to tell people, like, you know, at the time when I started, I had nothing. Like, I was still in high school, so I didn't even have a high school degree. I had no experience and I had no money. And if I was able to get started and do it, it just really starts with, you know, believing in yourself, right? Just be the crazy teenager that I was, that, you know, didn't know what failing was, or didn't know what doubts were, or didn't know what responsibilities were, and just took a plunge. And if you take that mindset where you just believe in yourself and you're that crazy, you'll be able to achieve, you know, amazing things. And that's what I try to tell people that are on the edge.
Is that, man, that's amazing, bro. So is that developed through trial and error, or is that something that you always felt you had that type of confidence?
So it's crazy. So growing up, I was a big basketball fan, and my favorite basketball player was Kobe Bryant. And I was like the type of fan where I would not only just watch every game he played, but I would watch every post-game interview, practice interview. Anytime there was a video on the internet where he said something, I would watch it. And I almost like kind of developed so many of like my strong mental principles just from the things that I would hear Kobe Bryant saying. I was like, look, this guy is super successful. He's one of the best doing it. And all the competitiveness and all the things. I remember this famous game where I think it was Western Conference Finals or something, his rookie year against Utah. He ends up airballing this three-pointer. Yeah, and I remember like right after that, like, you know, he was undeterred by it. I remember the post-game conference. He was like, if I didn't shoot it, somebody else would have had to, so I'd rather shoot it every time over somebody else. And I remember that off season, he was just like working, taking that same shot thousands of times. And the next year he came back and he was making that shot every time. And so for me, it's just always been like, I'd rather go, like, I'd shoot my shot and fail than not shoot my shot wondering what would happen. And I got a lot of that from, you know, just watching Kobe Bryant and seeing how he would react to things. And I looked at it as the way that, you know, hey, if it worked out for Kobe, why can't it work out for me?
I'm with you, man. One of Kobe's best quotes I always like is, and he usually says it when he loses, that he's just going to empty the clip. He's going to let everything go. You know, always he's going to fire it all. People say he shoots too much. He's like, I'd rather shoot too much than not enough. So I respect that. So one thing I've been thinking about on a personal level is this concept of college, because I just recently graduated college. And so when you want to be an entrepreneur, do you feel like in today's time with social media, the internet, this ability to have, I would say, direct-to-consumer relationships, do you feel like you need to go to college at this point if you want to own your own personal business?
Yeah, absolutely not. So I really don't think you need to go to college to be successful as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. Like I myself, you know, I went to college for about 4 semesters before dropping out. So I definitely don't think you need it. For me, I think you do need education of some sort, you know, so if you find the best education in college, then by all means, you know, pursue it all the way. But if you find that you're getting educated better or you're learning better in some other platform or medium that's outside of a university or college, then, you know, put all your time and attention and focus into that. And I like to use a good example. Like the reason why I dropped out of college was I was taking Entrepreneurship 101, and I asked my professor, like, hey, what businesses have you started? And he told me he's never started a business. And I was like, how can you be teaching me about Entrepreneurship 101 if you've never started a business of your own? And to me, it was like, at that point, I was like, man, I can't go to school, or I can't have someone, you know, that I look up to as like a mentor that isn't where I want to be someday. And so that was my calling to drop out of college. And I know, like, I have like some students that I work with, and they're like, one of their professors, one of my guys was telling me, I think it's at Berkeley or Stanford, one of those schools, his professor has started and sold $100 million company, right? Like a tech company. And now he's just teaching for fun. And I told him, that's an amazing mentor. Like, you should stay in that class. You should go to every office visit. You should do everything, because that's someone you learn from, right? because they're doing something impressive or something that you want to do. So that's really my take on college. Is I think there's millions of platforms and places to learn, and college is just kind of like the most dominant one due to societal pressure. But you can learn as long as you're learning, you're good. Doesn't matter where.
Right. What type of what type of backlash did you get, if any, when you decided to drop out of school?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Indian. So like traditionally speaking, like education is like everything, like degrees and all that stuff means so much to my family. So I definitely got a lot of backlash. And the way I really did it was, even though in my mind I knew I was dropping out, I told my parents like, hey, let me take a semester off and let me see, you know, if I can reach X amount goal, then will you let me take another semester off? And, you know, they'd be like, I don't know, blah, blah. And I just kind of force it and just keep forcing the issue. And then eventually they'd be like, okay, if you reach like X amount of incredible goal, then sure, I'll let you take another semester off. And then sure enough, I would deliver, and they'd kind of be like, whoa, like what the heck? Like he's kind of serious. And they'd be like, okay, now if you want to take another semester off, then you got to do X amount. And pretty much I just eventually got to a point where I was just hitting all their goals, and I was, you know, grinding like 16, 18 hours a day. Like they just kind of saw a different side of me, and they were like, okay, you know what, we could do it without college. And so they finally gave me the green light, but it definitely took like 2-3 years of just prolonging that whole, like I'm dropping out, and
You had to kind of like set it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Because I tell a lot of people that want to just like drop out right away. Like, you know, you tell your parents or somebody like you want to drop out right away. That's like an explosion, right? Like you're just basically saying I'm done with college. It's big, right? And what I went, and I knew how my parents would react. So I was like, you know what? Let me take one semester off. Let me show you what I can do in one semester. Worst case, I can always go back to school. Here's the school themselves telling me I can go back. And worst case, I'll just be a semester behind than everyone else. And that's how I kind of pitched it to them. And I think if you pitch it to them like that, it'll be a lot more gentle and ease them into it.
Right. What was your major?
So I was majoring in business marketing at the time, but I'd only taken maybe about 2 or 3 business classes because I was doing all my undergrad stuff before that, or my bachelor stuff, I guess, like bio and all the basic classes you got to take.
Okay. And where do you currently live?
I live in Orange County, California.
Okay. Okay. Are you from there originally?
Yeah. So I've been born and raised in California, so never left.
Okay. That's what's up. So kind of to wrap this up, what type of advice would you get for someone who wants to be an entrepreneur, has not found that particular maybe avenue, maybe doesn't have a particular passion at the moment? What type of advice would you get towards getting that type of mindset? Because you have a heck of a mindset yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I like to just tell people to keep it easy. Just get started somewhere, right? Like a lot of people think about like 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. They're looking for the perfect business idea, etc. And I like to tell people, look, what is something that you know right now or something that's catching your eye, and just get started with it, right? Like when I started at 17, I thought I was going to be making websites and doing social media for people for the rest of my life. And sure enough, within 2 years, my direction changed and I went into education. Then 2 years later, I was like, man, I don't like this education thing. Governments are too slow. I'm going to move into mobile applications and creating games. So it's just a journey. That's what I like to tell people. And it's like the sooner you start the journey, the faster you'll get to where you want to get to. And along the way, everything just comes together if you're committed and you figure things out. So the biggest advice I have for people is just find something and get started with it right now. And it's such an easy time to especially get started with businesses, because there's so many people, myself and others included, that are literally telling you like, hey, this business model worked for me. You can start this yourself. And it's already validated, right? Like 20 years ago, you didn't know what was working and what was not working, right? But nowadays people are literally telling you like, hey, you can sell products on Amazon and you can make money. And so if you see that and you're like, oh, that seems cool, just go out there and try it. What's the worst that's going to happen, right? So that's my best advice for people.
I mean, I respect it, man. I appreciate you even joining, man. Hopefully we can do this again in the future, man. I appreciate you. Anything you like to say? I mean, I know you have the Income Incubator, so you got everyone should make sure they check that out, because you're dropping jewels daily on that. Anything you like to say, parting words to the people?
No, I mean, most definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And yeah, I'm definitely open to, dropping value and knowledge anytime in the future as well. And for everybody out there, just keep grinding and keep pursuing your dreams, and you'll be surprised what you can do.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
All right.